Hello everybody and welcome to Bristol Temple Mead. Now today I'm going to be travelling on a lot of Volvo B9TL Right Eclipse Gemini buses. These are the backbone of Bristol's bus network at the moment. However, they will soon be going and will be replaced with a lot of electric buses, which I believe will all be Yutongs. That's a lot of Yutongs coming to Bristol. Anyway, the Volvo B9TL Right Eclipse Geminis have been around in Bristol for quite a while, but before that, Bristol used to have a lot of Volvo B7TL vehicles, with these not just being Right Eclipse Geminis, but ALX 400s and Plaxton President. Before that, I think they just had a jumble of lots of different buses. Anyway, to actually get on a Volvo B9TL, I had to go into Bristol city centre, and whilst I'm not too happy that the B9s will be replaced with electric Yutongs, one thing that I am happy about is that the Right Street Lights and maybe a few of the Right Eclipse 2 buses that operate on Service 8 between Temple Mead Station, the city centre and Clifton Village will also be going and be replaced by electric Yutongs. Anyway, I'm going to take this ex-Aberdeen Right Streetlight DF into Bristol city centre. Give it a couple of months' time and this could be a Yutong.
City Centre. Next stop, Temple Way.
Here I am arriving at the centre. It's not really the centre, it's just a new development with lots of bars, cafes and restaurants, as well as a few pubs. And this is where a lot of the interurban bus services meet up, as well as a few of the express bus services that also go into the actual Bristol bus station. The centre is kind of like Bristol's second bus station, since it's where all of the local and some of the interurban bus services meet up. Anyway, I had to walk from the centre just round the corner to Queen Square, which is where I would encounter my first Volvo B9TL, which is on the City Lines 24 service, which is operated by First West of England. As this Scania N250UD, ADL and 500 MMC on the airport flyer goes by, here comes my bus, which is a classic Volvo B9TL Right Eclipse Gemini in the classic 24 City Lines livery. Most of the City Lines routes have their own particular colour and brand, and on a lot of the City Lines routes, the Volvo B9TL Right Eclipse Geminis are the usual vehicle, with the exception of some of the 40 series routes, such as the 43, I think there's the 46 as well, I'm not too sure. However, some of the City Lines East services have gas-powered Enviro 400 city buses. Anyway, I'm going to be taking this through Fish Ponds, Eastville, and all the way to Southmead Hospital. passing another Volvo B9TL right eclipse Gemini in Bristol city centre on the 1 service bound for Broomhill. I believe the 1A and 2 services usually have a mixture of Volvo B9TLs and Enviro 400 MMCs. Here we are passing another Volvo B9TL, which is in the old Bath City livery. I don't believe Bath really has any Bath City liveried B9s anymore. However, I do believe that they still have 1 or 2 Mendip Explorer branded B9s. As you can see, most of the B9s are in Bristol. Passing through Eastville, which I have been to quite a few times now on the bus. I think I've been here on Transporter and now Stagecoach Route 25 between Bristol City Centre and Fishponds, as well as the City Lines 24 and the standard First West of England Route 17, which operates between Hengrove and Southmead Hospital and sometimes extends into Bristol City Centre. we are arriving at Southmead Hospital, which is one of the main bus interchanges outside of Bristol city centre. Although the whole First West of England City Lines network is filled up with Volvo B9TL right eclipse Geminis, most of the right eclipse Geminis are on the City Lines blue routes, which are the 70 series of routes. As you can see there, that B9 was on the 76 service, which is a City Lines blue service, and was bound for Hengrove Park. Here I am now at the correct stop at Southmead Hospital for my next bus, which was on the 76 service. Here is another City Lines 24 Volvo B9TL right eclipse Gemini arriving on the 24 service from Ashton Vale. Here is another Volvo B9TL, this time in the first Olympia livery, arriving at Southmead Hospital on the 17 service from Keynsham. This is one of the 17 services that terminates here and does not continue to Bristol bus station. Here is my Volvo B9TL right eclipse Gemini arriving at Southmead Hospital on the 76 service to take me down the road to Muller Road. This bus has a final destination of Hengrove Park bus depot, which we'll be going to later on in the video. Now after this, I was hoping to get on the 77 service, however that didn't go to plan. Anyway, let's enjoy another City Lines Blue Volvo B9TL. Here is the City Line blue branded first West of England Volvo B9TL right eclipse Gemini, leaving Muller Road top on the 76 service bound for Hengrove Park. Now this is where the only problem in this video occurred. Now I was hoping to go on the 77 service since it is usually formed of a right eclipse too. However, the driver had left Muller Road top about 5 minutes ahead of schedule and had waited at the stop down the road. However, he had left the stop down the road from Muller Road top 2 minutes early as well, which meant that I ended up missing another ex-Worcester right eclipse too. Anyway, this video is now about B9s, and here I am on the next B9, which is in the Bristol Unibus livery, which operates around Bristol as well as between Bristol and Langford campus located near Churchill. I'll be taking this on another one of the 70 series of buses back into Bristol city centre. Ever since I encountered that problem at Muller Road, I've been traumatised by the sight of a right eclipse too. Ever since then, at least in Bristol, I have seen loads of right eclipse 2s all around, especially on the 77. Look, here's another one in the Bath City livery.
Du-te fă mâncare să mânce fetele, nu fă mâncat. Am mâncat, bunii, am mâncat.
Here we are arriving back into Bristol city centre in the Broadmead area near Bristol bus station and the Haymarket.
Trece, că doar sunt copii.
Cheers, drive.
Thank you. Here I am now, very close to Bristol city centre at Rupert Street, where I jumped off of that Bristol city bus, Volvo B9TL right eclipse Gemini, and waited for the right eclipse Gemini on the 75, I think it was, behind it, which was another Bristol Unibus, Volvo B9TL right eclipse Gemini. I'll be taking this all the way to the Hengrove Park bus depot, and whilst I thought the 70 series of routes were quite a unique and quite a fast way of getting across Bristol, they do take quite a while, and especially at the Hengrove end, go through some very narrow streets. are passing through Queen Square, which is where I boarded my first B9TL at the start of the video on the 24 route. Here we are passing through Bedminster. At first it looks like your typical Bristol suburb and actually looks like quite a decent place. However, I think behind the scenes, especially at night, it can be a very unsafe area. If you live in this area, let me know in the comments below. Here we are passing by Parsons Street Station, which is on the outskirts of Bedminster, and is one of two stations in the Bedminster area, with the other station obviously being Bedminster. Anyway, here we are now all the way in Withywood, departing the main stop on Symes Avenue. Here I am arriving at the main bus interchange at Hengrove Park, located near the South Bristol Hospital. Here I am now arriving at Hengrove Park bus depot. I think there was me and maybe one other person on the bus. However, quite a lot of buses serve the depot and hardly anybody uses them. I guess it's so they can swap around the buses and the drivers when needed. So I kind of hope that I'd be able to get quite a nice view into the bus depot and see some of the maybe more rare and unusual buses parked up. However, the bus depot is basically a hellhole and a construction site because they were doing all of the work for the new electric U-turns. Typical that. Anyway, you can see a few of the buses in there, however you can't see that many because there's all of the barriers in the way. Here is another Volvo B9TL right eclipse Gemini leaving the depot on the 73 service bound for UWE franchise campus. These Volvo B9TLs are absolutely everywhere and it will be quite a sad sight when they leave Bristol, probably bound for the scrapyard. Anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the older right street decks and some of the right street decks such as this one, which have transferred from other parts of the first bus network, maybe don't get scrapped, but get moved back to either their original locations. For example, if this one went back to Leeds, or if they transferred to other places on the first bus network. I believe a lot of the buses that will be getting replaced by electric vehicles in Bristol may be moving down to the depot in Weston-super-Mare. Here is my final Volvo B9TL right eclipse Gemini and my final bus, at least in Bristol, arriving at the main stop outside of the bus depot to take me back into Bristol city centre. This is in the City Line's blue livery once again, and actually had most of the branding on the vehicle. This is on the 74 bus service bound for Bradley Stoke. Here we are arriving at the main stop just around the corner from Melvin Square in Knoll. The 74 bus service, along with a few of the other 70 series of bus routes, is the only bus service to serve Knoll ever since the Transport bus route 90, and before that the A bus service 56, as well as a few of the other A bus routes were axed. However, I do believe one of the old First West of England routes that used to serve this area will be coming back in April, once the April timetable changes get underway. Here we are now back in Bedminster, this time on the main high street. As you can see there, the Wilco looked very run down, and whilst it looks like quite a lively area, it does look a little bit tired and worn out. However, I do quite like Bedminster, as long as I don't get off the bus here. I think it's more because of the news that I feel like that it's an unsafe area, and I reckon if I lived here, I would soon learn that maybe Bedminster is not an unsafe area, unlike Stapleton Road, which I believe is one of the most unsafe areas in Bristol. I do quite like Bedminster, and it's one of the only places that I've ever seen that has a Heron Foods. Here I am now, arriving back into Bristol city centre. Now, I do believe some of the Badger Line branded right street decks that operate on the X1 and X4 bus services out of Bristol will be moving elsewhere on the First Bus network. So my iPad did run out of charge, however, I did manage to get on one of these on the way back down to Western Supermare. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I really do hope that you enjoyed this video, because it was actually quite hard work, especially when I missed that 77 service. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll just leave you with a few clips of buses in Bristol. Bye everyone!